Every club.
Every day.
The Global Sports Podcast Network.
Hello and welcome to the Daily Newcastle podcast. I am joined by two of my co-hosts that I feel like I have not been on a podcast since before Christmas. It's not been that long, it's me being a bit dramatic. But anyway, I am joined by the lovely Michael. How are you?
I'm doing well, thank you very much, Nicola. You could say I'm glad all over. Just a shout out to the Palace fans there, but yeah, good.
You're good, that is good. And I am also joined by someone who has just politely insulted me before we started recording. Yes. It's Kev, as always. Hello, Kev. How are you?
Hello. I did not. Of course, I didn't insult the lovely Nicola. I said she looks
Yes,
very.
you did.
He did.
I said,
Mike, thank you.
hey, you're not even going to let us make my defense here. I said, and everyone watching on YouTube will agree, she looks very intelligent with glasses on. That's a compliment.
In contrast to normal.
To which then followed, compared to normal.
Yeah, because normally you don't look intelligent.
Perfect. I have got the lovely job of hosting these two today, which I'm internally panicking about because these two know their stuff and I obviously don't. Anyway, let's get into it.
Pressure.
Yeah, I've got a bit of pressure going on. So we are recording this the day after our home game fixture against Crystal Palace. So first questions first. My question to you guys is, and it's probably a bit silly, is this Newcastle's best month ever? League Cup trophy win, 6 straight wins, 17 goals scored, 3 only conceded, and we are sitting third in the Premier League currently. How are we feeling? Michael, go on.
Yeah, you could say it's been alright, couldn't you? I mean, it's been a couple of happy times in there, a few celebrations, a bus parade. We're pretty much belting everyone that we see at the minute. It's men versus boys in most of these games, which it's really weird to see as a Newcastle fan. I'm getting strangely optimistic, which is the most, that's the worst thing. I'm getting optimistic, and to be honest, yeah, it's pretty good to be a Newcastle fan right now.
Agreed. Kev, big month for you because you had a baby, in case people don't know.
Yeah, I had a second baby. Also watched us lift a trophy at Wembley. Also went to the Town Moor. Also had a slight heart attack when Eddie Howe got ill, because everyone will know I absolutely adore Eddie Howe, and I will never, ever do anything but adore him. So when he was ill in hospital, I've never checked X/Twitter, whatever the hell it's called now. I've never checked it so much. I mean, I just realised why I'm never on it that much, because the amount of crap on there was unbelievable. But what a month. And also, I will add to what Michael said, it's been unbelievable, right? But we haven't just been winning, like you said, as men against boys. That Palace game, we've just come off the back of there, like 60% possession, 14 shots, 7 on target to their 4. We were literally, we were all over them. Isaac probably could have scored another 2. We missed chances on top of how good we were, and it was just fluid. It was flowing. Unbelievable. What a time this is to be a Newcastle fan. And again, anybody who's properly doubted, I'm not going to include Michael in this because Michael's semi-intelligent. Anybody who's properly doubted Eddie Howe, I would love to hear from some of them now, because we've gone awfully quiet.
Yeah.
Very, very quiet, to the point where it's a little bit funny to actually see, because obviously I am on X more than what I'm on any other social media channel, just for football related things, and the amount of in the know accounts that have hidden under a rock recently is astonishing to see.
Goodbye.
And I will, I don't want to dwell on those months before Christmas where everyone was questioning Eddie's job, but I hope they're all feeling very stupid right now. And because obviously he listens to us every single morning. Obviously we're still sending our well wishes to Eddie, hoping swift, quick recovery for him. However, let's focus on the game on Wednesday evening. Obviously, Cena, I don't know, were you both there? Did you both go?
I was there.
Yeah.
You were there? Yeah, you both went. Okay. So we obviously hosted Crystal Palace. Now, I don't know about you guys, but obviously, Kev, when we were last on together, you posed a question to me and Joe about the next 3 games. So obviously, it was the Manchester United game, Crystal Palace game, and obviously we've got Villa coming up, which we will talk about towards the end of the pod. How many points we would expect to come away with these. Now, I actually said I would be happy with 7 points. And here we are. We're currently sitting on 6.
6 out of 6, yeah.
6 out of 6. So my first question to you guys is, how are you feeling after yesterday's game? I personally, before we went into it, I wasn't exactly worried about Crystal Palace. I did expect us to win. But what I will say is I did think they would give us more of a game than what we actually got. Because I think we just hammered them from left to right all over the pitch. So, Kev, how are you feeling about that?
Yeah, I was exactly the same as you. I was saying that Palace would be a tougher test than Man United, and I think that pod you were referring to when we talked about how many points, I said that we could have rested players against Man U with them being that poor to then have a full-strength team because Palace are so good. It turns out just play a full-strength team every week and batter everybody. That's the way forward. What I will say as well, I just love that midfield at the minute. When that midfield are on point and they have a rhythm about the game and we just know where each of our Joelinton, Bruno and Tonali, honestly, that's got to be, this is for a pod later on down the line, that's got to be one of the best midfields in the Prem right now. And I'm not normally the one to get too far ahead because when it was first getting said, I thought we've been amazing for 3 or 4 games. Let's give them time.
Yeah.
But wow, I mean, them 3 are formidable. I don't think anybody wants to come up against them 3.
No.
And that was the midfield which impressed me against Palace, if I'm honest. The defence were good, but didn't have a lot to do. I thought Isak could have had a better game, but that midfield, including Murphy and Barnes, I mean, oh my goodness gracious me. Talk about dominating the game and taking it by the scruff of the neck. From minute 1, they just didn't let Palace breathe.
Nope.
And it was just, how much can we press them? How many mistakes can we force?
Yep.
And it was very effective. We absolutely blew them away. I think a little bit of credit's got to go to Tyndall as well. I think there is a bit of a difference. I think
Manager of the month.
When I watch a Howe team, there's every now and then there's a 5-10 minute sensible period where we look after the ball and we're a little bit more, let's not do anything stupid to give us away. Tyndall's just, there is no sensible period. It's just, we've got the ball.
Go to it.
There's 30 minutes left and we might be 4-0 up, but you're just going to go again. You're going to go at them again. So really, really good. And it just shows we might not have the depth. I know we're going to talk about this in part 2. We might not have the depth in terms of playing style or playing options. But wow, in terms of coaches, Tyndall clearly knows what he's doing, doesn't he?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
100%.
Yep, I completely agree. Michael, how do you agree with what we've said? Were you worried before we went into the Palace game? I know I was.
Yeah, I was massively worried. I said with Ian, I thought this would be the banana skin. I think Palace had lost just 2 out of 15 away games or something like that. They'd just been battered by Manchester City and, we know what that's like. And every single time it happens to a club that's, decent, they bounce back. But Palace didn't look like bouncing back at all. But it's funny you mentioned the manager of the month. Would this be the first time in history that the manager of the month is shared? Because Eddie Howe started the month, but Jason Tyndall's going to end it. So if they do get it, would it be shared or would it just go to Tyndall? Who knows?
I think Howe's such a nice person, he would give it to Tyndall, wouldn't he?
I think he would.
He'd let him take that one home. He'd let him take that one home. But we should cut it in half and then present them both together. That would be amazing.
I agree. Can we just for a minute focus on the Tyndall and Howe partnership? Now, we obviously, as Newcastle fans, all know how well they work together, obviously. Obviously, Jason did a press conference, I don't know if it was after the Manchester United game or after the Crystal Palace game, and said that, him and Eddie have worked together for like 17 or so years now. But I don't know if it brings anyone else like a sheer, relief. But if this was back in the Bruce days and obviously say the assistant coach or whatever was to take over, I would obviously hit absolute sheer panic and be like, oh my hell, what is going to happen? But the fact that Eddie Howe's obviously really poorly in hospital, Jason Tyndall's taken over, there hasn't been any inkling of any disturbance across the squad, across the management. There's no panic across the fans. And to me, that actually is credit down to both Eddie Howe, the players, and obviously Jason Tyndall himself, of just how well everyone's gelled and works together. I don't know, maybe I'm just looking too much into that. I don't know if you guys agree or not, but I just think it's really coming across well that they're not disturbed by what's happened. Obviously, everyone will be worried, but yeah. Do you guys agree?
Yeah, 100%. I think a large part of it does come down as well to the fact that it's not the first time Tyndall's inherited aside from Eddie Howe. Obviously, when Bournemouth got relegated, Tyndall took over. It took them 10 games to lose. They'd only lost 3 of his first 23. So I mentioned it to Ian, we're in good hands short term. It was when Tyndall actually tried to implement his own style on Bournemouth that they started losing a little bit more. So as long as we keep doing what we're doing and we keep playing the Eddie Howe and Jason Tyndall way, we're going to finish second.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I think it's a culture we've created, isn't it? I think Eddie and Jason have created that culture within the squad. I've watched countless that high performance podcasts and all that stuff, and Dwight Gale's recent comments about how he gets everybody to share their personal stories and why they want to fight for each other. That's embedded now 3 years in. That's never going to change. And I think how putting all that effort in, that personal time with the players and the coaching staff, for when something like this does happen, which you can never foresee, but it's just the culture's already there. It's almost like a well-oiled machine right now where we just know what we're doing day after day, and like I say, little tweaks and stuff which Eddie will implement. But like Michael said, short term, I genuinely don't think there'll be a massive miss. If anything, it's a motivation to do it more for Howe than we normally would, I think.
Yeah, I completely agree. Okay, we'll leave part 1 there and we'll just go to our first sponsored ad, which is from Bioniq.
Your body is unique, and Global Sports Podcast Network has partnered with Bioniq, the world's most personalised supplements. Bioniq provide 100% tailor-made supplements designed to deliver precisely what your body needs at exactly the right levels to optimise your health. No guessing. So click the link in the show notes. Use the code GSPN 2025 for 40% off your first month's subscription. Bioniq. Don't settle for off-the-shelf solutions made for just anybody. Get what's right for you right now.
Lovely job. Lovely. Right, welcome back to part 2. So I think we'll still focus on the game from Wednesday night. I want to ask you guys, because I'm not sure how much more I can say about these group of players without becoming really boring. So what players stood out for you the most? This is a hard question because they all did on Wednesday evening, because it's a really hard question at the minute that I feel is being asked of what is the best Newcastle United player? Who is the best Newcastle United player? Who is standing out the most? Because I feel like they're all playing a really big part at the moment in the squad. Michael, I will come to you first. Obviously, we scored 5 goals against Crystal Palace. So take your pick. Was it a player that didn't score, or was it a player that scored? Who was it?
Yeah, for me, I think obviously Tonali ran the game. Joe Linton was fantastic, but I think the player for me that ran the show creatively was Jacob Murphy. He could have broke the record for assists in one game last night, and nobody would have batted an eyelid. He should have had 2 or 3 assists in the first 8 minutes. 2 for Isak, 1 for Joe Linton. Unfortunately, Joe Linton couldn't touch the ball in the box, which we've seen that before. And Isak, header just went over, and the low drive's a good save. But I do mention Murphy because I am going to add one thing, and there is something that's really, I'm not going to say pissing me off, but it's annoying me about Jacob Murphy. And everyone is saying right now, Jacob Murphy's in a purple patch. Across the last 3 seasons, he's picked up 35 goal contributions, whether that's goals or assists, 1 every 125 minutes. And that's not just this season, it's last season and the season before. Under Eddie Howe, he has been fantastic. And it's starting to annoy me that we're not putting respect on the man's name, because he's improved so much under Eddie Howe. And everyone says Joe Linton, fantastic under Howe. But Murphy, he's magic when he's on it. When he's off it, he's a little bit off the ball, not great. But he's on it a lot more than he's off it now. And last night was just an inkling of just how good Jacob Murphy could be. Yeah,
I agree. And I think Joe will agree as well. We all know Joe is Jacob Murphy's biggest fan. I wholeheartedly agree with that. He probably could. He ran the show he ran the show the whole game, I think. But for those first 10 minutes, I remember my friend Nick, who I used to work with, text me and he says, start the game quick. And I was like, Jacob Murphy's going to score this game. I can feel it. And then literally seconds later, was that incredible goal, by the way. So yeah, I do agree with that. I don't think it's a purple patch. I think we're just seeing finally the I guess the actual quality that Jacob Murphy has. He had wanted a new right winger, and he thought, no, I am taking this matter into my own hands. So yeah, screw everyone else.
100%.
Kev?
Yeah. To be fair, sticking with Murphy, I remember the last pod I was on, I asked you and Joe who's the most important player in our squad. And obviously everyone expects Isaac or Bruno, but you two answered Murphy, and you're bang on, because we don't actually have another proper right winger. I thought Barnes was brilliant against Palace, and I've been Barnes' biggest critic. But the last 2 or 3 games, he's actually been very good. I don't think Gordon's getting back in anytime soon.
No.
But Murphy was put down as the most important player, and when you think about that statement 3 years ago before Eddie Howe came in, you would have been laughed out of any building or any podcast that said it on. You wouldn't have been allowed anywhere near Spotify ever again.
Just put it in the net, man.
Exactly. However, now he is arguably, like you two did say, he's our most important player at this moment, because he is our only right winger, and he's in incredible form. It's not a purple patch, I want to know, Michael, but he is in undeniable form. But I'll go with somebody else. I'll go with Harvey Barnes. Like I mentioned before, I've been very disappointed by him so far. But the last 2 or 3 games, even I've had to take a bit of a step back and be like, you know what? He's starting to show that he's a very good player. That finish on his left foot, what a finish that is, because everyone expects him to come inside. He's got a great right foot and he curls at far corner. The defender was expecting him to come inside, literally step over on the right, very classic wing play, knock it down the outside and just drill it across the keeper right in the corner of the net. Such a good finish. And I would arguably say, at this moment in time, he might be the second best finisher in our squad. You could even argue first, because Isaac started to miss a couple of chances. Barnes is just not missing at the minute. He's
Isaac
on fire.
scored the hardest chance of the game on Wednesday night and missed absolute sitters. So yeah, I mean, well, not sitters, but he missed easier ones.
We'll let
I'm
him
not
off.
complaining.
He's got 26 goals.
We will let him off. Yeah, I'm not complaining. But still, how can you score the hardest one?
I do want to mention as well, because he was getting a bit of stick just before the final, and he was maybe past it. But Fabian Schär is well and truly back. Not all of his passes came off, but he's trying. I don't care if it don't always come off. Look, he's a human, but as long as he's still trying it, and he was trying so many good diagonal balls, and even when we weren't winning it, it was causing problems for Palace. And on top of that, defensively, the last 2 games, he's been unbelievable. Aerially as well, he's winning everything in the air defensively again. So Schär's well and truly back. I think that new contract gives him that little bit of stability of I am going to be here. There isn't as much pressure to perform, and he's relaxed a lot more. And he looks like with Fabian Schär we know and love. And again, if you're going to sign a centre half to replace him in the summer, good luck with that, because I don't see how you do it. It's a little bit like Murphy. You've got to be very careful. You can't just sign a £60 million winger and drop Murphy. That's not going to happen. You have to earn. Like a Bruno situation, you're going to be on the bench for the first couple of games, and when you do get a chance, you're going to have to shine, which is just unbelievable when you think about what's to come for Newcastle.
Yeah, I would like to thank the Newcastle admin team for their incredible work with the Fabian Schär post yesterday evening. It was absolutely fantastic.
It was Ian Holloway on it. He must have something wrong with him, Schär. You can't be that rich, that good looking, that talented. There's got to be something.
Something
wrong with them. It's not fair on the rest of us, lads, is it? It's not fair on the rest of us. If you've got him looking like that, being that talented, being that rich. He's Swiss on top of that, so he's got immaculate taste.
Yeah, incredible.
Yeah, hopefully there's something wrong with him. I'm not going to say it, but yeah.
Anyway, swiftly moving on. God.
What a guy. We love Schär.
Bit choked up. Yeah, we do love Schär. Yeah, we all love Schär. Where were we? What was my next question? Oh God, now I'm flustered. Someone help.
What's wrong with Fabian Schär?
What's wrong with Fabian Schär?
I don't think it would cook you up.
So obviously, but Harvey Barnes has been spoken about, and I have also been a mega Harvey Barnes critic. And that's, there's nothing against him. It's just he wasn't performing well. In all seriousness, and Kev, you've just touched on it, so maybe I'll come to Michael first. Which is mad to put this in the same sentence, because I would never have said this pre-Carabao Cup final. Do we think Anthony Gordon is going to struggle to get back into the squad? We've seen him come on as a substitute, but for a starting position, you can't argue with it, can you?
I don't think he'll struggle. I think he'll have a couple of games out. Probably we'll get to maybe after Ipswich, when we start to play Chelsea and Arsenal, and then you'll start to see Anthony Gordon back in the side. I do love Harvey Barnes. I stuck by him while most criticised him, but he isn't a top 6 player. Anthony Gordon is, and when players are in hot form, you can't really take them out. But Gordon will come back. Gordon will come into a game. I imagine he might rest Barnes for the Villa game or something like that. Gordon will show why he's so highly rated. And to be honest, this is just giving one of our best players a rest, and the person coming in is in fantastic form. We've said for the last year that if we had to sell someone for PSR, it would be Harvey Barnes. Maybe now it's not the case, but I don't think he's disrupted the spot of one of our best players after 5 or 6 good performances.
Yeah.
I think with Barnes, it's going to be really interesting because you look at, normally one of them two would be forced onto the right because it's like we haven't got but Murphy's in such good form, again, down what we spoke about before, mainly Eddie Howe's coaching. If Eddie Howe gets his hands on Barnes, and Barnes playing regularly now, so he's implementing a lot more of what Howe wants from him, well, I think Gordon should be in a little bit of trouble, because if he keeps this up, he's not going to score every game, of course he's not, but if he keeps getting goal contributions, I think what Barnes does do better, and I'm in the minority here, I think he defends a lot better than Gordon. The amount of times I've seen Gordon be a little bit slow or hesitant to track back, or reactive, Barnes is a lot better. He's in that right back position a lot more, even when he was playing right wing against Palace. When he got moved over to right, he was helping out right back quite a lot when Kraft came on. So I think he defends a little bit better, which Howe will prefer. And I think if Howe can get his hands on him and really implement what he wants from Barnes, and Barnes can implement it now because he's playing regularly, not just coming off the bench for 20 minutes here and there, every odd appearance, he's got a run of games now. I think Gordon might be in a bit of trouble. I genuinely do. I think Gordon's a great player and it's a fantastic problem for us to have. But if Barnes responds like Murphy, Barnes will be in the England team.
Potentially, yeah.
What a dilemma to have. Because I argued on last podcast as well.
Having too many good players.
Well, I know. I argued on the last podcast as well that it's, it might have been in the group chat actually, about Tino Livramento arguably being better at left back than he is right back.
Definitely better offensively.
He has been, yeah.
So, yeah, it'll be interesting to see. Obviously, I know Lewis Hall's going to be out for a while, but it'll be interesting to see how that's going to work when Lewis Hall's back to full fitness. But anyway, that's an Eddie headache or Jason headache, and not a Nicola headache. So, yeah. We'll go to the second advert, which I believe
you should have said, speaking of Nicola headaches, over to Michael. That would have been amazing.
Wow.
Sorry.
Kev is full of the insults, Michael.
Yeah, let's just get this advert done with.
Yeah.
Sports Podcast Network, we spent a lot of time selecting our delivery platform, and thankfully Kev doesn't know how to use it. Zencastr came out a clear winner, by the way. It was unreal, with 4K video recording from your phone, and AI editing that hopefully removes Kev from this episode. It's super easy to start a podcast that sounds great and is delivered efficiently. If you're ready to tell your story, check out the link in the show description to learn more about Zencastr. Love you, Kev.
I think that's the best one, yeah. I'm capping that. That's the best.
That was good.
Zencastr advert ever. Well done, Michael.
Well done, Michael, for keeping your composure. Because I wouldn't have. As we all know, I don't know if anyone listened to the Wildcard Wednesday episode that got released last week, where I tried to read out the Zencastr advert 3 times and lost all composure. I couldn't do it. So
skip.
It was 3 minutes of pure laughing. It was embarrassing. Right, we have only got sort of 10 or so minutes left. So before we go on to view the Villa game, I said I was going to ask you guys a question around about our squad depth, which we know obviously isn't a massive problem, but could be a problem potentially next season if and when we secure Champions League. My question to you both is, we've obviously got our strongest 11, which Jason and Eddie obviously have agreed on and started. Is it a concern to you guys that when we bring on our substitutes, so i.e. yesterday, on Wednesday when we brought on the likes of Willock, Longstaff, etc., the clear, visible lack of quality, I guess, is it a concern to you guys that when that happens, obviously our game plan goes down ever so slightly? It's obviously to be expected. However, to me, it's just not a massive concern, but it's just a little bit like, how do we overcome that? Michael, whoever wants to start, go.
Yeah, that's fine. It's one of those where I think in recent games we've kind of had the idea of we've been so far ahead that we can just afford to sit off a little bit, and we have done that in the second half of games recently. And I think, I mentioned yesterday on the instant reaction that I was a little disappointed that it was a Wilson and Longstaff and not Miley and Osula, because for me they're the perfect games to bring them on. But at the same time, it is a little bit of a concern that Longstaff and Wilson aren't at that level, but they have been great servants to the club. They are reliable when it comes to not making those kind of mistakes. And, let's be honest, Palace were never really going to get back into the game last night. But if we look at Leicester, for example, if Leicester had scored early on in the second half, something like that, because we brought on the kids, they might have had a little bit of a shout of getting back into the game. So I think they're reliable heads, and they're not. I think Longstaff will still be here next season, but Wilson obviously won't. It'd be nice to get him that 50th goal for the club. Sentimentality isn't always available in football when you're 5-0 up. There, you've got the leg room. So as much as it is a worry, we've got a big summer ahead, and we've only got 6 games to go. So it's okay for now.
Yeah, Kev, you agree? Disagree?
Yeah, I probably mostly agree. I think there's always going to be a drop off in quality when it's subs, because there's a reason why we're not starting unless they've been out for a long time. Wilson, I'm his biggest fan. Absolutely love Callum Wilson. I don't know if that injury is kind of, that's the one injury. Every player has that one injury where we're just not the same afterwards. He hasn't quite looked the same, but he hasn't had a run of games, so I'm not going to write him off too soon, because he is a goal scorer, and he's been unbelievable for us. So I don't think he's much of an issue. I think in terms of drop off of quality, I trust Willock. I trust Kraft, who came on. Again, Kraft is no Trippier. Trippier's leadership is unbelievable. Kraft will never let you down, like what Michael was saying. I don't think Willock will let you down. Willock always runs hard. He's a great carrier of the ball. But I think for me, as much as I try and defend him as much as possible, I've defended him around Nicola all the time as well. But the sheer lack of the drop off in quality when Longstaff was on the pitch was. He had a touch in the midfield that bounced off him and went back to them. There was a period went for a header and fell over. You give away a foul, and I was just like, I really want to defend you because I hate how much stick you get because you're a local lad. But this is the first time I've noticed this severe drop off. Like, there's always been a drop off, but you've always thought, you know what, he'll do a job. I saw a drop off and I was like, oh my God, you're miles off it at the minute. And I don't know if it's just because he's not playing regularly. So he hasn't got the minutes. Like Barnes, when Barnes would come in, like for 20 minutes, Barnes used to look hopeless, and now he's had 3 or 4 games starting. The problem for Longstaff is he's not going to get 3 or 4 games starting with that midfield and Willock knocking on the door. Because when the midfield was getting disrupted about 4 or 5 weeks ago, it was Willock. Willock was the one coming in. Miley even came in before Longstaff. So I think that tells you that I think long term, I think Longstaff might not be here next season.
Yeah, I think just to add to that as well, I think Longstaff is one of those players, and I think a lot of clubs have them. Will use for Crystal Palace. Ian wanted to give a shout out that he said he would be hopeless, and he was, to be honest. But Longstaff, I think, is one of those players that is a Premier League standard player when he's getting consistent minutes. There's a lot of midfielders in the Premier League at the minute who, once they drop out the squad, it takes them 5 to 10 games to get back up to speed. And that's a difference between a Tonali, a Bruno, etc. They can come in 2-3 games, they're back on it, maybe even 20 minutes. And what we've seen from Bruno and Tonali at sometimes. But Longstaff, he is going to take 5-6 starts to get back up to speed. And as you rightly mentioned, Kev, he's not going to get that at Newcastle, unfortunately. So I would, for the best of his career, he probably should leave, but Newcastle have a home quota to make for the Champions League, and, well, there's not many players that we can add because our youth system's been notoriously
Is Lewis Hall still under 21? Because if he's under 21, he's been at the club for 3 years before 21, which I think he then counts as a homegrown player.
Yeah, but we need like 5. He is. I'm pretty sure he's 20 still.
20, yeah, I think he is quite still.
I think we need 5. So you've got Miley, Lewis Hall, Mark Gillespie.
don't know anymore.
Unless you bring in like Jack Anick or something like that. Is he still playing? Get rid of John Ruddy, unfortunately.
Andy Carroll's coming back.
Yeah.
Bring him back for the love of football.
Yeah,
it's a hard one.
It's a hard.
That's the only reason I think Longstaff stays.
You might be right. I'm not going to sugarcoat it because me and Kev had an argument about it.
I do it again.
Well, a disagreement, not an argument. Yeah, damn, the kid's arguing again.
I actually agreed with you. I just defended him. I feel so bad for him. I just feel so bad for him.
Yeah, maybe for like you've just said, Michael. Maybe for the interest of his career, I think it will be time for Newcastle to shimmy him out. Because he's just not getting regular game time, and like we said, the lack of quality is it's very, very visible. Right. So for everyone listening, and Ian is going to be doing a crossover episode with the Aston Villa lads. But whilst we're on here, we might as well give a quick preview and our own thoughts of the game, considering we're not going to be on the crossover.
Boo.
Boo. Out of the Man United, Crystal Palace and Villa game, this is the one I am worried about the most. Don't ask me why. Villa, when they're good, they're good. I don't know if anyone watched their Champions League fixture the other night against PSG. Yes, I know they still exited the Champions League, but they played very, very well. How are you both feeling going into Saturday? It's our third game in 6 days. How are we feeling, Kev?
Definitely the biggest test. And I think before Villa's Champions League exit, I would have predicted like maybe a 2-1 loss or a 1-1 draw. However, I think emotionally they'll be spent. They spent so much emotional energy in that game that I think we might actually go there and turn them over 2-1. So their kind of predicament and their mental tiredness after that Champions League campaign, we saw it with us when we had big emotional games away at Milan and away at PSG. It did take its toll on Newcastle as well, and I just think with them being so close to the semi-final, maybe feeling like we should have done a little bit better, the huge push for high intensity, to then have to play, albeit at home, and we have a great home record, albeit them to then play against us, we are probably the most informed team in the league right now. So I fancy us to sneak it now, just because of that, but it doesn't take anything away from how tough it is. I'd take a draw now. If somebody said, I'd take a draw now, 100%. But that's just me. That's how good Villa have been this season.
Yeah. Michael?
Yeah, to be honest, I agree wholeheartedly. I think Villa are, before the PSG game, you'd say, you'd take a draw any day of the week at Villa Park. They're a great team, and you could argue that Newcastle and Villa are going to replace Man United and Tottenham Hotspur in the top 6. And to be honest, you can't say no to Villa because they look absolutely fantastic. And to be honest, I thought they were a little bit done over by PSG in the Champions League. 5 minutes added time at the end. Should have been a lot more, but we know exactly what it's like, PSG referees in the Champions League, so I won't go too much into that. But yeah, Kev's right. They'll be absolutely spent. And the way we're playing at the moment, if we start the same way we started against Palace, they're not going to be able to cope. And I think if we were the game on Tuesday and Man City played them on Saturday, I'd be worried. But you got to remember, after the first leg against PSG, they rested quite a lot of players, but they were terrible in that first half. And it took a second half surge. They're better in the second half than they are in the first, but I think Newcastle might cement a 2-goal lead in the first half and hold on to it in the second.
So you're going for a 2-0. Kev, you're going for
2-1.
2-1.
2-1 Newcastle. I'd take a draw now if you offered us it.
When you asked last week about the games, I said I'll take a draw at Villa, but I almost want to go for a win. But you guys have stolen the best ones.
Go 5-0, why not? In fact, 6. We've done 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Make it 6.
4, 5, next to 6, isn't it?
I can't go 3-1 because that's Ian's holy grail. Right, I'm going to copy you, Mike, I'm afraid. I'm going to go for, I think we'll walk away with a 2-0 win.
Great minds think alike.
You're
intelligent, and now you're starting to agree with me.
Intelligent minds think alike.
Just adds up.
I become so smart. I think we will leave that there. Obviously, this the crossover episode I think will be released on Saturday morning. Am I right in saying that?
Some point.
I don't even know
idea.
the days of a week anymore. I've got a
It's
little
up to
one.
Ian.
Yeah.
If we don't get it, Ian's just turned around and said, "Nah, you're not worth it."
Yeah.
But hopefully he does.
It'll either be out today, Saturday. It'll be out before the game, hopefully. If not, then he's forgot about it. Thanks for both for joining me. And we'll be back.
We believe in Ian.
We believe in Ian, yeah. We'll be back after hopefully Ian's crossover
Make Ian
episode
great again.
on Monday morning with hopefully another Newcastle win. Oh, God. We're out. See ya.
Every club. Every day. The Global Sports Podcast Network.